today. I have two questions. My first would be, what is the power of Arab countries, oil producer, to decrease American help for Israel? And the second question, what is the weight of demography in Israel politics when maybe in 40 years or 50 years Arab Israeli citizens will outnumber Jewish Israeli citizens, and will be the effect in Israeli politics?
Could you repeat the first question again?
The first question is, what is the power of Arab countries, oil producers, to pressure America, United States, to decrease their help for Israel?
Thank you. By the way, thanks to everybody for saying kind words about me being here tonight. I do consider it a privilege to be here. With regards to the power of Arab countries to get the United States to change its policies vis-a-vis Israel, the Arab countries are virtually powerless. There's just not much they can do because they're no competition for the Israel lobby. I actually don't think that's a very controversial argument. It might sound that way, but the Arab states in the region have talked to the United States endlessly about putting pressure on Israel to change its policies.
Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, and I'm talking more of the OPEC countries, the Arab OPEC countries.
Well, as you know, the OPEC countries, in the wake of the '73 war, began to boycott. What's the word?
Embargo.
Oh yeah, the oil. Excuse me. Yeah, the OPEC oil embargo, which did significant damage to the Western economies. But the United States, as you well know, did nothing to change its policy towards Israel. So even that failed. I just don't think that there's anything that the Arab states can do. Also, one of the things you want to remember about the Arab world is that it is not a united front. It's not like all the Arab states can get together and reach a policy conclusion and then go to Washington. The Arab world is like Europe and other areas of the world. There are huge disagreements among the various states in that region. This is why it's so ridiculous to talk about an Islamic threat or to talk about an Arab threat. It assumes that there's this unified Arab world out there. There isn't, any more than there's a unified Europe. With regard to your second question, which I think is the more important question, it's the question about demography. First of all, you have to distinguish between the demographic issue as it applies to a greater Israel and the demographic issue as it applies to what's going on inside Green Line Israel or pre-1967 Israel. With regard to a greater Israel, there's almost no question that in a few years' time, given Arab and Israeli Jewish birth rates, that the Arabs, the number of Arabs between the Jordan and the Mediterranean will outnumber the Israeli Jews. And the Israeli newspapers and Israeli magazines and the Israeli public discourse talks endlessly about what they call the demographic threat. So this one is pretty open and shut, and this is why I feel comfortable saying that you will end up with an apartheid state if you move towards a greater Israel, which seems to be the case. The question of what happens inside the pre-67 borders is an even more interesting case. First of all, when Israel was created in 1948, the Arabs, or the Israeli Arab citizens in that state, represented about 18% of the population. And today, the number is about 20%. And the reason that the percentage of Palestinian or Israeli Arabs is not greater is which you would expect, given that Israeli Arabs have a higher birth rate than Israeli Jews, is because a large number of Jews from the Soviet Union and from the Arab world have come into Israel since 1948. And therefore, they've kept the number around 1/5, around 20%. Over the long term, the next 20 or 30 years, it's hard to see where Israel is going to find the huge pool of Jews outside its borders that it can bring into Israel to offset the fact that the Palestinians, that the Israeli Arabs have a higher birth rate. So even inside Green Line Israel, I think the balance is going to shift in favor of the Palestinians. Second point I would make is that it's very hard to get numbers, but it's quite clear that a large number of secular Israelis are leaving the country and going to the United States, going to Canada, and going to Europe. And if you read the Israeli press, I read the Israeli press quite religiously, there is a lot of concern about this. Furthermore, if you look at what's happening inside Israel, the highest birth rates among the Israeli Jews is among the ultra-Orthodox. The average ultra-Orthodox woman inside Israel has 7.6 babies. That's the birth rate for the ultra-Orthodox. So I think the numbers go like this. In 1993, the time of the Oslo Accords, 5% of the 19-year-olds were ultra-Orthodox. Today, roughly 12% of the 19-year-olds are ultra-Orthodox. By the way, you can get these numbers for the ultra-Orthodox because of the huge military ramifications, because the ultra-Orthodox don't serve in the military when they turn 19 years old. So anyway, back to the story. 5% of the population was ultra-Orthodox in 1993. 12% is ultra-Orthodox today. In the year 2019, it's estimated, and this is a pretty solid estimate because all you have to do is count the number of first graders. It's estimated that 23% of the 19-year-olds will be ultra-Orthodox. So you see what's happening here is large numbers of secular Jews, we don't have big numbers, but large numbers of secular Jews are leaving for the United States, for Canada, and for Europe. And as you know, the United States and Canada are like giant vacuum cleaners that go around the world sucking up talented people. We're perfectly willing to bring in talented Jews who will prosper here because it makes America a better and more successful country. And I'm sure Canadians have the same view. So you see this reverse aliyah, and at the same time you see very high birth rates among the ultra-Orthodox. So I think there are three trends, this is what I tried to point out, I think there are three trends taking into place inside Israel that are worth noting. One is, I believe, the percentage of Israeli Arabs versus Israeli Jews will increase over time. Number two, I think the percentage of secular Jews in Israel will decrease, and the percentage of ultra-Orthodox will increase. And my political antenna tell me that nothing good will come from this situation. And for that reason, I would really like to see the Palestinians get their own state and live side by side with the Israelis.